The day it happened, everything was supposed to be a celebration. The city's annual Veterans Parade was in full swing, the streets alive with the pounding of marching boots and the triumphant blare of brass bands. Flags waved high, patriotic cheers rang through the air, and a mix of uniformed service members, veterans, and proud families filled the sidewalks. Among them was Isaiah Turner, a tall, broad-shouldered black man in his late 40s, dressed in a simple dark jacket with an old service patch stitched onto the sleeve. He walked with a quiet dignity, nodding to those who acknowledged him, his presence commanding yet unassuming. No one could have predicted what would happen next. The first sign that something was off came in the form of a police cruiser slowly rolling up alongside the parade route. People barely noticed at first. After all, law enforcement was expected at an event like this. But then, another squad car appeared. Then another. Their sirens weren't blaring, but the tension in their movements was undeniable. Without warning, 4 officers stepped onto the street, moving straight toward Isaiah. People turned their heads. A few parents pulled their kids closer. Something about their approach was too aggressive, too deliberate. They weren't stopping other parade participants, just him. Isaiah barely had time to register what was happening before one of the officers, a stocky man with a hard, unreadable face, placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Sir, you need to come with us." Isaiah frowned. "Excuse me?" "You're being detained," the officer snapped, tightening his grip. "For what?" They didn't answer. Instead, 2 more officers grabbed his arms, twisting them behind his back. The cheers from the parade died down as more people turned to watch. Someone in the crowd shouted, "What's going on?" Others pulled out their phones, recording the scene. Isaiah didn't resist, but his voice was firm. "I served this country. I have the right to know why you're arresting me." One of the officers murmured something into his radio. The others shoved Isaiah forward, forcing him to his knees. A knee pressed against his back. A hand shoved his face into the asphalt. The crowd gasped. "He's a veteran!" a woman screamed. "What did he do?" But the officers didn't respond. They moved with mechanical precision, lifting Isaiah and hauling him toward the police car. His face was unreadable, but there was something in his eyes, something cold, calculating. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't pleading. He just stared at them, almost as if he knew something they didn't. Then, as they forced him into the back of the car, he muttered under his breath, "You're making a mistake." And just like that, he was gone. The parade continued, but the energy had changed. The celebration felt hollow. The moment was wrong. Then, the first inconsistency emerged. A local news station reached out to the police department, asking why a decorated veteran had been arrested in the middle of a public event. The response? "Routine procedure, no further comment." Routine? No one bought it. A highly decorated veteran tackled in broad daylight in front of thousands of witnesses? It didn't add up. Then the story took a turn. A reporter for the city's biggest news outlet ran a background check on Isaiah. And what he found changed everything. This wasn't just any veteran. Isaiah Turner had one of the most classified service records in military history. Multiple deployments, elite units, covert missions. The kind of history that wasn't just impressive, it was the kind of record that made people nervous. Silver Star, Distinguished Service Medal. Medals that weren't just handed out to anyone. But something was off. His military file wasn't just redacted, it was practically erased. Entire sections blacked out. Mission details, classified, service records, restricted access. Something wasn't right. The department panicked, scrambled. Suddenly their story started changing. First, they claimed Isaiah was arrested because he matched the description of a suspect. Then they said there was a warrant. But when pressed for details, the warrant never existed. And then, another twist. The police department's jail records showed Isaiah was never processed. No mugshot, no booking, no paperwork, nothing. It was as if he had vanished. The last person to see him? A rookie officer who agreed to talk anonymously. "I don't think those were real cops," he admitted in a shaky voice. The room went silent. "What do you mean?" the reporter asked. The rookie swallowed hard. "After they put him in the car, I tried to check the system. I couldn't find anything. No arrest log, no case number. But that's not the weirdest part." The reporter leaned in. "What is?" The officer hesitated. Then, barely above a whisper, he said, "The squad car wasn't ours." The line went dead. And just like that, the story took a darker turn. The moment the story broke, it exploded. Social media went wild. Activists, journalists, even military officials started demanding answers. How does a decorated war hero get arrested at a parade and then disappear without a trace? Then came the security footage. A bystander had filmed the whole thing, and what they captured was chilling. The police cars, no department insignia. The officers, no badges, no name tags. They weren't real cops. At least, not local ones. The footage aired nationwide. Pressure mounted. The police chief held an emergency press conference, his face tight with stress. He had no answers. "This matter is under investigation," he said, voice shaking. "We are working with federal authorities to—" And then another bombshell. A man in a dark suit stepped onto the stage, whispered something in the chief's ear, and just like that, the press conference was shut down. Reporters shouted questions. The broadcast cut to black, and somewhere where no cameras could see, Isaiah Turner sat in a cold, dark room. He wasn't afraid, because he knew exactly why they took him, and he knew what was coming next. The room was cold. The kind of cold that crept into your bones, the kind that made you question how long you'd been there. The single bulb overhead flickered, casting long shadows along the concrete walls. Isaiah Turner sat in the middle of it all, his hands cuffed behind the chair, his back straight, his expression unreadable. He'd been in worse situations before. Far worse. The men who took him thought they had him trapped, but what they didn't know, what they could never understand, was that Isaiah had already won the moment they put their hands on him. The steel door creaked open. Two men stepped inside, dressed in dark suits. No badges, no names. Just the quiet, calculated presence of men who operated in the shadows. One of them, a tall, lean figure with slicked-back hair, pulled up a chair across from Isaiah. The other leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching. The tall one spoke first. "Mr. Turner." Isaiah said nothing. "You've caused quite a stir." Still, silence. The man sighed, leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "You don't seem too concerned." Isaiah lifted his head slightly, eyes locking onto the man's with a calmness that was almost unnerving. "If I was supposed to be dead, I would be. So let's skip the intimidation." A flicker of amusement crossed the man's face. "Fair enough." He sat back. "You're a problem, Turner." Isaiah smirked. "That's what they always say, right before they lose." The other man, silent until now, pushed off the wall. "You don't seem to understand. This isn't a war zone. You don't have a unit backing you up. You don't have clearance. You don't have protection." He leaned down, voice dropping to a low whisper. "You have nothing." Isaiah chuckled. "That's where you're wrong." And then, before either of them could react, he moved. Even with his hands bound, Isaiah was a weapon. His chair scraped against the ground as he shifted his weight, swinging his leg with enough force to slam into the taller man's knee. A sickening crack filled the room as the man howled, collapsing onto the ground. Before the second agent could react, Isaiah used the momentum to launch himself backward, driving the chair into the man's chest, sending him staggering against the wall. The cuffs? A joke. They weren't standard issue, sloppy. A quick twist of his wrists, a flick of pressure, and they snapped open. By the time the second man reached for his gun, Isaiah was already on him. A single, brutal strike to the throat, and the agent collapsed, gasping for air. Isaiah grabbed the taller man's gun, pressing the barrel against his temple. "I don't like being lied to," he said, voice low and dangerous. "Who sent you?" The man wheezed, eyes wide with pain. You think this ends with us?" He coughed. "You don't get it. You were never supposed to make it out." Isaiah's finger hovered over the trigger, and yet here I am. The man gave a weak, bloody grin. Not for long. The walls shook. A deep rumble vibrated through the floors, and suddenly, alarms blared. Isaiah had seconds to react. He grabbed the taller man by the collar, yanking him to his feet. "What did you do?" The agent grinned through the pain. "You're not leaving." Isaiah threw him aside just as a squad of heavily armed men flooded the hallway. Black tactical gear, visors down, moving with military precision. Isaiah had one gun, one clip, and no time. He fired 3 shots, taking down the first 2 men, dove sideways as bullets ripped through the doorframe. His mind worked fast, too many of them, too little cover. Then his eyes flicked to the agent still groaning on the ground, a hostage. In a blink, Isaiah was moving. He grabbed the agent by the collar, yanking him up as a human shield. The squad hesitated. Their fingers tightened on the triggers, but they wouldn't fire. That hesitation was all Isaiah needed. He shoved the agent forward, making them stumble, ducked, rolled, grabbed one of the fallen men's rifles. And then, chaos. Gunfire erupted. Isaiah moved like a phantom, weaving between the barrage of bullets, dropping targets with ruthless efficiency. 5 down, 6, 7. They kept coming, but Isaiah was faster, smarter. By the time the last body hit the floor, the alarms had shifted. Intrusion detected, perimeter compromised. Isaiah exhaled. That wasn't him. Someone else was coming. He reloaded, gripping the rifle tighter. If he wanted answers, he needed to get out, and fast. The halls were a maze, concrete walls, sterile lighting, no windows. But Isaiah had been in facilities like this before. Underground, hidden, not government-run. This was private, a black site off the books, which meant whoever was coming wasn't the police. He reached a stairwell, sprinting up 2 steps at a time. Bursting through a set of heavy doors, he stepped into the open night, a clearing, dense trees, a helicopter in the distance, searchlights sweeping. And then he heard it, the sound of tires screeching. Isaiah turned just as a convoy of blacked-out SUVs tore onto the scene. Doors flew open, men poured out, not soldiers, not cops. And at the center of them, stepping out of the lead vehicle, a man in a pristine suit, older, sharp features, the kind of face you don't forget, the kind of man who doesn't answer to the government because he owns the people who do. The man clapped slowly. Impressive. Isaiah stayed silent, rifle at the ready. The man smiled. You've been a ghost for years, Turner. Some of us wondered if you were even real. Isaiah's grip tightened. Who are you? The man tilted his head. That's not the question you should be asking. Isaiah said nothing. The man gestured to the wreckage behind them, the dead bodies, the ruined facility. You think this is about you? He shook his head. You have no idea what you just walked into. Isaiah's heartbeat was steady, cold, controlled. Then tell me. The man's smile widened. It's not you they wanted. The words hit different. Isaiah's jaw clenched. What do you mean? The man took a step forward. You've been off the grid. No contact, no connections, but someone found a way to pull you back in. His gaze sharpened. Why do you think they arrested you so publicly? Why do you think they let you escape? This was never about locking you up. He took another step. This was about luring you out. Isaiah's pulse spiked. His mind raced, connecting dots, filling in gaps. And then, his phone buzzed. A number he hadn't seen in years. Unknown caller. He answered. A voice, one he never thought he'd hear again, spoke. They have her. Everything stopped. Isaiah's blood ran ice cold. His grip on the rifle tightened, and in the darkness the man in the suit smiled. Welcome back, soldier.